Good evening, Tony Dattino. My goodness, I'm not used to doing my live with Tony's after 6 o'clock, but today has just kind of come, gone, and poofed before me before I realized that today was actually Wednesday. So, not sure if any of you have that challenge of what day of the week it is, and what day of the week are we playing today, and I certainly had that today since it just occurred to me a little while ago it was Wednesday, but it's been busy all day, phone calls. I've gone to the Memory Institute over at the YMCA, and the day is now closing, and so do want to watch the St. John's basketball game at 9 o'clock and hope that they continue their march. But I wanted to cover the other side of the equation. On Monday, I went through the 10 superstars of food that are for better health. We talked about sweet potatoes, leafy greens, oatmeal, garbanzo beans, broccoli. Now we're going to talk about the things that you should avoid, which are the other side of the coin. First, we're talking about chicken pot pies that you buy in the store that are previously frozen, and you take them home and you cook them, and you think you're doing well. But one of the things you got to be careful of is the amount of sodium that's in them and how many calories they are. So I've learned recently, but the last couple of years, as I've been doing the live with Tony's and talking about the elements of cognitive fitness and long-term mental health, look at the calories, but the amount of sodium. And we obviously don't want to overload our bodies with any of the chemicals that we put in food. And certainly, chicken pot pies, that one they think are good, but then when you start to look at the ingredients they put in it, and how many calories that is, with the creamy sauces they put in them, and other fats that are part of them, you begin to realize, my goodness, between the sodium and the fats and what have you, not a good thing to be eating, thinking you're eating healthy. Been to Five Guys a few times, and number 2 on there. Oh, by the way, the source of this, so let me give you the proper source of this, is the Nutrition Action Group. It's from the Center of Science for the Public Interest. And I get a monthly newsletter from them, and this came into the current one. So let me just clear that up before I continue. It's the Science Center for Nutrition. Number 2, bigger burgers. And I started with I go to Five Guys, but never realized that their bigger burger, with no toppings, is 840 calories and a day's worth of saturated fat. It makes McDonald's Big Mac look wimpy. And if you go for their bacon cheeseburger, with no toppings, it's another 1,000 calories and 30 grams of saturated fat. And if you add the fries, you're adding almost another 1,000 calories. And I'm saying, my goodness. And I've been to Five Guys a number of times, and I'm saying, probably not anymore. If you think, and I'm a fry guy, so I got to go get the burger with the fries, and I'm looking at 2,000 calories. I might as well not eat anything else for the rest of the day. How about Campbell's soups? Number 3, the amount of salt. Again, we're looking at salt, and my nutritionist tells me 1,500 grams of salt a day. And I'm looking at the mg's of salt. And I'm looking at chicken noodle soup. A typical Campbell's condensed soup has 800 milligrams of sodium. But many people eat the whole can, and now you're eating 2,000 milligrams of salt. They're suggesting here, look for Campbell's Healthy Request soups, which only have 400 milligrams of sodium. You know, people as they get older, you're worried about heart attacks. One of the first things a cardiologist is going to tell you to do is cut down on your salt. When you just start to look at some of these foods, my God, it's almost cut down on your eating. So we go from chicken pot pies to Five Guys burgers and fries to what Campbell's soup we always thought was good for us. And you start looking at sodium on the labels of food, and you start to say, oh my goodness, it's killing us. We go to number 4. How about tortillas? Chipotle's chicken burrito. It's got the white rice, the beans, cheese, chicken, sour cream, and salsa. It's another 1,000 calories. It's like, oh my God. So you go to Chipotle's. My granddaughter loves to go to Chipotle's. and she gets their various bowls and mixes, and here she's, I'm thinking, wow, a chicken burrito at Chipotle's has got to be good, and I read this, and it's got 1,000 calories. It's got 16 grams of saturated fat and 2,200 grams of sodium. I mean, this is, are you, and then you go to Taco Bell's chicken soft tacos, and you can just slash the calories in half by ditching the tortilla, the rice, and the sour cream. Get the chicken, the beans, the cheese, and the salsa. Okay, so maybe you can eat chicken, beans, that's not bad, cheese, and salsa. Anybody go to Cheesecake Factory? My goodness, you go to Cheesecake Factory and you got the Towering Trouble cake. Chocolate Tower Truffle. It kicks things up a notch for 1,770 calories. I don't know how big this piece of cake is. I'm not a Cheesecake Factory person. But more than any cheesecake on the menu, and forget the 60 grams of saturated fats, and it's mostly added sugar, 34 teaspoons. I have looked at everything with sugar. I am cutting back on sugar, cutting back. It impacts your mental function as well as the rest of your body. So I have been much more aware of the amount of sugar in things and sodium. And if you just start adding this stuff up as you eat throughout a day or go out through a week and see what you're doing to yourself, all of it has an impact on your whole body's functioning and your systems. And if it's impacting your cardio, it's also impacting your mental functions. Number 6 is pizza. At Uno Pizza, a deep dish. It piles on the sausage and cheese on a white flour crust, and now you're going to pop 2,100 calories in. Their pepperoni is even worse. You can have 3 Pizza Hut's pepperonis for the price of one Uno deep dish pizza. I go to my Italian restaurants for my pizza. I'm not sure if I got to start looking at the calories, the cheese, and the fats, and the sugars. I do eat sometimes pizza, and the cheese is so darn salty. I feel like I have to drink a gallon of water after it. So I've cut down on the amount of pizza. And a guy, Tony Latino, is going to like pizza. But I certainly do watch the amount of salt, fats that I'm eating. And so I am cautious about how much pizza. I used to eat pizza more than once a week, and so I don't do that anymore. Now, I've been to the Olive Garden a bunch of times. Always love their meal, always walk out feeling like I'm well fed. And they talk about the triple bypass. You go to the triple bypass and you can get all 3 in the tour of one, what they call the tour of Italy, which I have had a few times. I probably will never get it again. It has lasagna, chicken parmesan, and fettuccine alfredo. It's a 1,500 calorie dish with 50 grams of saturated fat and 3,200 milligrams of sodium. I'm like, I don't know if I've been there, if I don't study the menu well enough, but boy, after reading this in the Nutritional Science newsletter, it's like, holy, Olive Garden, what are you doing? And then we can go to Starbucks, which I've just heard on the news today, they're reviving their menus. But their Mocha Madness, a 20-ouncer with 2% milk and whipped cream. It's 530 calories for a mocha. 14 grams of fat and 9 teaspoons of sugar. Just stop with the salt and sugar. My God, what would happen to us? And now we can go to number 9 and look at ice cream and look at Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And only 2/3 of a cup, which is not, it's probably a couple of spoonfuls of ice cream. And 2/3 of a cup, and we're getting, again, 6.5 teaspoons of sugar. And we wonder why we have problems with our physical looks and our well-being and our health. If you just look at these 10 factors, which is the last one being a shake at McDonald's, the chocolate shake with soft serve ice cream, chocolate syrup, and whipped cream. We're going to start at 520 calories. We can go to a larger one for 830, but saturated fat, and 19 teaspoons of sugar. So all I would recommend to all of my Live with Tony listeners, this is not a lecture on what you decide that you want to eat, but it is a lecture or a plea for you to start looking at the amount of refined added sugars as well as sodium that are in the foods that you are getting from your outside dining sources. And hopefully there's no one in your home dining area that's adding extra sugar and pouring on the salt to the food that you're eating at home. And I think if you find that you recut both of those, you're helping your mental health, your firings of your neurons, as we like to talk about it, and your overall cognitive function, as well as your heart health and your body's systems to work as effectively and as efficiently as possible. And that concludes my Live with Tony at 9 o'clock. It's St. John's against Butler, and off I go to watch tonight's basketball game. Have a great evening, and I'll try to do better on Friday, getting on there much earlier than 6:30.